It is a beautiful day on the trails. I'm out with Mowgli, and I have not eaten since Tuesday evening. Tuesday evening, I ate. I feel amazing. Um, I don't always have the willingness to fast. I think fasting should be incorporated into. Excuse me for turning around there. Got a little leash problem. But we should all be incorporating fasting during different parts of our lives for health benefits, maybe even an extended fast for autophagy occurring maybe quarterly, do something like a 3-day, 5-day fast, something like that. Back when I owned the gym, there were times where I led fasting clinics where we'd all do it together. The longest I did was 10 days of water only. But, this time around, working on my health, sometimes we're motivated because we're feeling sick. We're feeling, got some sort of health issue, and then we draw a new line in the sand and we're motivated to make a lifestyle change and get holistic treatment. That's actually not where I'm at. I actually feel great. I felt like, I need to move my body more, but I don't really have any issues. And also, I think it's great that I'm just sailing right through the fasting. And just for those of you who are managing your weight, if that's a concern, and what are the options like Ozempic, which is going to tear up your gut, which erodes your health and has no exit plan and risk of rebound weight gain. Fasting is about the easiest thing you could do. Like, I'm fasting and walking in nature. Like, how easy is it to not eat? Like, that's the easiest diet menu to organize, right? I'm just not eating. And if your body is too sick to do it, you won't feel comfortable. That's the telltale sign that you're pushing yourself too much, is that you're not comfortable. And if you're really not comfortable or you're having high cravings, you really should go back to something like Reset first and give yourself some time to adjust to like a low carb intake, which gets your body a little bit more primed for fat burning, because that is what makes a fast successful, is that you're in a fat burning mode. So it's good for weight loss, but it can be good for other health benefits, decreasing inflammation, cleaning out the liver. All those things are there, but you've got to be fat burning. Even if weight loss is not your goal, you've got to be fat burning. Otherwise, your body will be stressed out by the event and you'll make sugar. This pathway involves the adrenal glands and the liver, and it's counterproductive. That's a fight or flight response in the body that is not a health benefit. So you're ready for fasting when you go to do a partial day fast, and you're fine because already your cravings have been reduced and you are sleeping better, energy levels are stable. Basically, these are all the common improvements experienced with Reset Phase 1. Follow Phase 2, it gets a little bit more aggressive, but still very doable. Phase 3 is where we introduce the fasting concepts that I'm doing currently. And, I met this doctor. Some of you may know him or remember him. Dr. Skavorsky, I think his name was. He had a practice for weight loss in Temecula. I met with him for lunch 20 years ago, and he sat down with me and he said, people can't lose weight. It's impossible. They have to be drugged. And he's talking to me, who owns a gym at the time, and my first career was fitness and exercise physiology. And I've, at that time, helped many people lose weight. And so my gut reaction was, you're dumb. But there was some truth to that. And the truth is that for some of the people in the gym, us trainers trying to coach them and guide them, they just couldn't seem to follow a food plan, even if they wanted to. And that's what I now really refer to as the apostat. Maybe one of the primary goals of Reset, like we're resetting our hypothalamic pituitary abnormal response to fuels. But part of that is resetting the satiation level, and that's the apostat. And so some people are more food addicts than others, where there's literally a mechanism in the body that makes them out of control. So you may want to clean up your diet, and then you go into your day, and then you just fail. But it's refreshing to know that much of that, if not the vast majority of that, is correctable. That's the apostat. That's the part of your feedback loop involving even stomach and fat cells and hormones like insulin and leptin and ghrelin and glucagon. And there's a lot of mechanisms there, but it can be corrected. And so that's one of the first goals of Reset, is to be able to eat less without trying. You can't white knuckle it. It's not sustainable. And that's what you experience. You follow Reset Phase 1, the cravings go down, which means you're fat burning. And if you're fat burning, now you can do something with that. Once you're fat burning, you can eat less without trying, without really experiencing, the white knuckling through it. That's so miserable. Fighting a craving is the worst thing in the world for me. And then you can exercise. Now you're exercising, you're fat burning. Versus if we're still in that kind of sugar burning, chasing the carb, overreacting to the carb, getting fat, vicious cycle that a lot of us in this country end up in because the food supply is so terrible. Mostly the grains, which is why Reset's so great. But if you're in that cycle, you got to break the cycle. It's miserable. And so Reset does that. And that's the setup for healthy fasting. And that's where this doctor really didn't understand any of that physiology. He definitely didn't understand. He had no training in nutrition, no training in exercise physiology, but it's a core component. And his lack of understanding in that component kind of made him right. If you don't correct the apostat, you really can't stick to the diet. You can't lose weight. Now, the cocktail that he used was really bizarre. It was phentermine combined with a few different psych meds. Kind of like we're pushing the body up and down at the same time while stimulating it. It just was awful. But he got some results. Like, same with the triple stack that we saw in the fitness industry, where they would combine aspirin, caffeine, and ephedra. It worked. It literally worked. You would be muscle protective while losing fat. The problem is that it caused strokes. I mean, that's the thing. Even the quote-unquote natural way, there's no way around it. You got some ephedra in there, and that's a powerful plant medicine, and it's being misused, right? You don't want to take berberine in high amount. You don't want to use these plant medicines, which are so amazing, which I've committed my life to studying. You don't want to take them for these trendy fad, kind of like influencer-pushed ideas. Like, we're suffering, so it's like, oh, I'll do this. But they're not responsible for anybody. They don't have clinical experience. They're just generalizing. And you see a lot of the influencers now, like, they have no history. All they're doing is regurgitating what's trending. That's all they're doing. And if they put it into a neat looking post, you think they're an authority because they have whatever amount of followers, and they're not. They're not at all an authority. Or you see somebody who may have gained a platform from one topic. And now they're talking about things they don't know about because now they have the following. So now they're going to look up an herb that they never used or never did anything with clinically. And they're going to have something to say about it that they have no actual understanding of. But they're the authority because they made it big with something else. They made it big with keto. Dr. Eric Berg is a good example of this. I think his posts are generally pretty good, his videos. But he made like 1,000 videos on keto. It's like eat low carb over and over again. And he helped a lot of people by just doing that. And, very clearly, a lot of people benefit. Not everybody needs low carbs, but a lot of people do benefit from it. And I may not really like the specific keto style where it's super high in fat, but most people really don't follow that. They go to follow keto and they end up just really kind of doing Reset, more like, or they call it dirty keto. And so, but nonetheless, he's like, whatever, 5 million, 20 million, I don't know. He's like way up there. So what are you going to do? Keep talking about, keto? He's a chiropractor by trade. So, he starts making posts about plant medicines and this and that where he has no experience. He was never trained in it. He's not in practice. He's a YouTube influencer. And so now he's outside of his wheelhouse. he's talking about stuff he doesn't know. Paul Saladino, MD, same thing. These guys really have some very valuable information. Then they get big. Well, now what do I talk about? Let me just make it up. I'll talk about stuff. All I got to do is look it up on Google, and then I'll talk about it like I have experience with it. Nope, no experience. And not seeing patients, so no management of clinical outcomes. And we end up with the same kind of nonsense in Western medicine, which is one-size-fits-all care. Now we're getting that with one-size-fits-all influencer-based lifestyle medicine or herbs, or it's just completely a mess. But nonetheless, there is a way. And when we are looking back at like Dr. Skavorsky's protocol, in the next following few years, I think he must have gone out of business. I'm not sure if he's around or alive. He wasn't young at the time, but I treated a whole bunch of patients that had severe problems as a result of that protocol that he put people on. And the problems were generally uncontrollable heart palpitations and sleeplessness and anxiety that they never had before taking that cocktail of drugs. We see all the problems with the people who took amphetamines for weight loss. It works, but it's not sustainable. Completely jacks up your adrenal glands and the rest of your hormone system. There's no exit plan. When you attempt to get off of it, a lot of people experience rebound weight gain, actually worse than when they started. So it really comes back to this. You have to be on a health journey. You have to fall in love with the process. You got to let go of the outcome, like I got to lose weight. That's the ego. That's going to always have self-criticism in there. And that's spiritual sickness. The world according to John makes a lot of sense to John. And if I'm not praying, then I make myself either especially important or especially bad. Both of which are useless and untrue. In reality, we're just not that important. And so when we get over ourselves, we can be in a position of service. And if we are to lose weight through spiritual health, we're falling in love with the process. We're finding that place where we're inspired. We're being led back to health. And usually it's going to have an element of giving it back to others, sharing what we're doing, inspiring others to heal. That's what it's all about. And on the other side, when we're taking these drugs that we don't want to admit, what do? We hide it. It becomes our secret. Not me, I've never done those drugs, but like as humans, we start to, so what we all do, right? So you're losing weight, but you don't want to tell anybody why. You're taking the, hormones and you're taking drugs and, it's kind of like you're cheating, but you hide it because you wanted the cheap, short version to get the result to satisfy the ego. And let me tell you, owning that gym for so long and myself being super fit with ripped abs for the vast majority of my adult life, that doesn't really ever satisfy you. And we know that, especially in the California kind of fake body image madness that we see a lot of California go through much of the time, is that the more fit you get, you're not more happy. You're not less self-loathing. So on one side of it, you have spiritual sickness, regardless of getting the results, quote unquote. And on the other side, you have something healing where you lean into prayer, fasting, exercise, moving your body. You become empowered. You have more to share. You're lit up in a way that gives you inspiration in the other areas of your life. And that's what healing's about. Healing is about healing in every place of our life. And that's what makes it spiritual. Have a great day.